disturb us.
So,
No?
Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, class studying apples from the orchard. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts. I forgot my mic.
Yeah, where's the microphone?
where's the mic?
Held in memory of Malka Ruth Baptist Moshe Marguerite Vogel, blessed
No,
memory.
the mic.
Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal by the Sakuga, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. In the regular edition, we're up to 9:58, 1 minute.
Oh.
No, I don't know.
Well, no. Why? Don't drink.
I understand. But, no.
Probably won't because I'll.
Sorry. Wow.
No. Oh, weeks.
One.
First time.
Sorry, we passed.
I'll pass on that one.
Okay. Is this the volume?
There it goes.
Got something.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Hello.
Is that the right dial? Maybe.
I guess so. When I talk, needles.
Which needle?
The green.
Yeah,
The green
for
thing
two.
is,
Now it's doing more when I'm talking. When I stop.
but you're talking right.
Okay.
there.
Anyone remember what we learned?
Oh,
So much.
So. Okay. Yes, it's true. The last time we learned,
yeah. What? The
I'm going to
purpose
go
of-
back to. We learned on page 951,
Right.
the beginning of the parsha of Kisei, where if there's soldiers are fighting
Yeah.
Yes.
and they take captives, and they see among the captives is a nice-looking woman. So
I
it's,
said shave her head.
well, first, the first thing is that that the soldier can be intimate one time. It doesn't say that in the passage.
Doesn't, but you.
I just noticed that.
It
Can be intimate one time with the woman, with the captive, and then he has to take her home and eventually make her his wife. Unless he decides not to, then he can send her away. He's not allowed to sell her as a slave. Yeah. Nancy, 1 second.
By the way,
1 second, Nancy.
This is
Hold on,
this
hold
is a
on.
little different.
Yeah, it's important. I'm in my class. Okay.
So I just want you to kind of, that's not really what this says in terms of the intimacy. It says here, you shall take her into your house, you shave her head, grow her nails long, dwell in your house, mourning over father and mother for a month. Only after this may you, again, I get the key.
But
Again.
it doesn't say.
But that
doesn't
word
say
isn't
there.
even in there.
It doesn't say clearly.
Okay, that's the confusion. So that's put in there. It's not necessarily.
Yep.
Okay, that was the question. All right.
This is talking about a war captive, a war bride, I guess it's called. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. war bride.
War bride.
is,
It's a war.
No?
So it becomes,
I think
she
so.
becomes your wife.
Yes.
a war bride is someone who came during the war, drove the fighting. Not someone you take after going on the battle.
You take
No,
it.
this is while you're fighting and
While
all
During
that.
the battle.
Yeah.
Okay, then the
You
war
take
bride.
it during the war
process.
bride.
War bride.
And then, but then you can't. The only way you're allowed to do that is if you're willing to take her, to bring her home and make her a permanent wife.
No, I'm working.
Is to make her a permanent wife. So we asked a number of questions. We said, okay, the first thing is, I'm sorry. So this is talking about a war that's not a,
Not defensive.
it's not a, what's called a war, a mitzvah war, which means to conquer the land of Israel. Or defensive war. If it's to expand your territory, then it's like it's optional. It's the king's prerogative. Then it's the king's prerogative. So, and that's what kind of war this is. And in halacha, in Jewish law, they have different legal parameters. Yeah, different terms. That's first of all. After this, there are three sequential passages in the Torah, and from here it goes to the son who is the rebellious son. Now, rabbis tell us that if you start up with this and you have you take this war bride, then it's going to bring you trouble into your house. You're going to end up with the rebellious son. Okay? So, we had a number of questions. First of all, why suddenly? One of the reasons why that's given for this idea of the war bride is because the Torah allowed him to express, the Torah allows the soldier to express, to have an outlet for his passions. Yeah, that's the question. Why suddenly are we allowing someone an outlet for his passions? You don't say, you know what, you really like that shrimp, go do whatever. We don't allow that. But here we allow it. Second question, ask a question. Second is that it said that if at the end of the what do we call them? Punishments, consequences. I have a name for it. I don't remember. Admonishments. The Torah said, and it lists all the bad things that are going to happen. The very last one is that God will return you to Egypt in ships. You will be sold there, but no one will buy. Huh? No, I have a better.
Yeah, I know.
War.
No. Admonishments. I don't know. I had a better word. Third, how come it says he's going to bring you back to Egypt in ships, but nowhere else?
Nothing to elevate.
Why? We're not allowed to move back to Egypt, but how about Babylon, or so on?
We can elevate.
But we weren't there yet.
We can bring up the light.
Oh, there was a punishment not to go back to Israel, not to go back to Egypt. There's a prohibition.
Nothing to elevate.
So that's the answer. And fourth, we speak of the Medrash often talks about the references to the exiles in next week in the parsha, not this week, next week, with the covenant between the parts. And so we have references there. They say to Bavel, Media, Greece, and Rome. But it doesn't say anything about Egypt.
Yeah.
And then Exodus from Egypt is mentioned 50 times. So those are the questions we asked. And what did you say, Jim?
I said that there's nothing to elevate or bring light from Egypt because we took that out. through the Exodus,
We empty the land.
and it was empty. So
I would suggest we go back to 957 at the bottom. Let's start from there, because that's the beginning of the answers.
Ishmael.
Where? Where?
Is like
Yeah, the Arabs.
Edom and Ishmael.
The Arabs.
All Arabs.
Second Arab.
All Arabs.
Ahab, the Arab.
Had the
no, Edom is Rome, correct?
Papa.
Alibaba, 42.
Exactly. It's a section of Iraq, province in Iraq. Yeah. Oh, good. Thanks.
I'm on
Thanks.
the northwest.
All right. Near Argentina. Yeah. Yep.
Wasn't intended.
Okay. So we'll start here. Yeah, I think it's going back one page. I think we got to the bottom of 958. Well, we'll begin from now on 957 at the bottom. Now.
Now, the purpose of exile is to
If not now,
then
when?
Then, whenever it comes. Now, the purpose of exile is to elevate the fallen sparks of holiness that were scattered all over the earth and were mixed in with evil due to the sin of Adam. This is the meaning of the verse. There is a time when a man overcomes another man to his detriment, meaning that the evil man overcomes the holy man to his own detriment. For the fact that he oppresses Israel and rules them allows Israel to totally extract from him all the sparks of holiness within him. Evil man and holy man were here mean the forces of evil and good, just as in the vision of Ezekiel in the array of divine attributes flowing into creation had the form of a man and the anatomy of a terrestrial man, reflects his organization of forces. So are the forces of evil arranged in human form. And wherever.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. Those forces of evil come from our nefesh?
No.
No.
No?
No. It comes from the divine energy. It starts off divine energy that gets siphoned off, like an interception in football.
Okay.
All right. Okay, 958.
And wherever they go, the Shekhinah, divine presence, goes with them in order to elevate her component parts. The divine presence accompanies the Jewish people in their exile in order to reconstruct herself out of the fallen sparks of her shattered self. That is why we are commanded not to return to Mitzrayim, but are so prohibited with regard to other nations that have oppressed us. For we have not yet elevated all the divine sparks within them. And they emptied out Mitzrayim, meaning that during the Egyptian exile, the Jewish people elevated all the divine sparks that adhered in that culture and country. This is why the punishment for wrongdoing is that Hashem will return you to Mitzrayim in ships. Since Mitzrayim corresponds to the upper tip of the Yud, and there remain divine sparks to elevate in other lands, which are in comparison to Mitzrayim, like the body is to the head, Israel must return to Mitzrayim. By returning to Mitzrayim, the general exile, Israel can then proceed to elevate whatever sparks remain in the derivative exiles of the other nations.
One moment.
What?
One moment. Derivative. So, the sparks of Egypt have all been elevated. Thank you. The sparks of the other lands remain to be elevated. And this is the purpose of the exile. It's to
Elevate the spark.
to find the sparks, elevate the sparks.
Why would they return?
They're not returning to Egypt itself.
So
They're
they-
returning to it's
so
an
they-
exile.
Okay, yeah.
So however, Egypt is like the upper tip of the yud, which is like the crown for the rest of the letter. So Egypt, or the forerunner of all exiles. So like all exiles are contained within Egypt. So the Egyptian sparks have all been uplifted. The other ones haven't. But we could elevate the other sparks in Egypt. That's what.
I don't know if we can elevate them in Egypt.
That's what it says.
I'm not sure. I think I don't know necessarily.
Read that line by returning to Egypt.
By returning to Egypt, the general exile, which could mean exile, Israel can proceed to elevate whatever sparks remain in the derivative exiles of other nations. Well, yeah, I get what
That's
you're
what he
saying.
says.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Because Egypt corresponds to the upper tip of the yud,
Yeah.
like the crown of the yud,
Yeah.
or from where the yud is formed.
I don't know how you can do that in, but I see.
That's what it says.
I know. We're commanded not to return, but we have not elevated the sparks within them. They emptied out. You see, there's a. I don't know. It seems
We have
contradiction. Above, the one above, we're commanded not to return.
Because the Egyptian sparks have all been elevated.
I got that.
These aren't Egyptian sparks.
But
Correct.
still, the
Correct.
problem is
Yes. It's a bit of a paradox.
It's a paradox.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Maimonides.
Yes.
Because he was given safe haven.
But he was given safe haven and he had a job there.
A big job.
Hmm?
I'm sure.
Oh, he was
Yes.
he was an advisor. The head, whatever.
King.
Head mucky muck.
Head monkey. Well, I don't know. Very tribal, so who knows?
Whatever head mucky muck was there.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
advisor to him.
Okay. Go ahead. It
Yes.
says that the ships will take you to Egypt and they'll sell you, but no one will buy.
But as to Egypt itself, no one will buy. When there were sparks of holiness embedded within them, they desired to rule over Israel. But since Egypt has already been totally refined, they no longer have any desire to enslave Israel. Therefore, they will not want to buy them as slaves.
Okay. So that is one big thing. First of all, the big thing we do is we turn around the idea of exile from being a way that the Jewish people are punished to something that's necessary in order to elevate the sparks. A mission.
Yeah, our mission.
From God.
Yeah.
Okay?
Statement.
Okay, Jim, you want to continue 958 at the bottom?
Babylonian, and by the way, what you referred to with the parts, the footnote 6, the page before talks about Abraham's.
Yes.
Which breaks it all to Babylonian, Medea, Greece, etc.
Yes.
So Babylonia corresponds to the head as it is written. You are the head of gold. Medea and Persia correspond to the two arms. Greece corresponds to the body. And Edom and Ishmael correspond to the two legs. This is why the latter two exiles are long.
What it says there is that King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and when he woke up, he couldn't remember the dream, and he was terrified. And he called his wise men to tell him the dream and the meaning. They said, "How do you expect us to say a dream?" And he sentenced them all to death. Okay, he didn't play games. You're fired. And I mean, this goes back and forth. And he sent them to Arioch, who was the chief executioner. And Daniel heard about this, and Daniel sent a message to Arioch and said, "Don't rush to anything." I mean, they were telling the king, like, "How do you expect us to do this?" He says, "Well, you're wise men." They said, "But you're asking about something that nobody can do." So he said to him, "Give me some time." And he gave the king. He asked the king for time, and he and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they all prayed to Hashem. And then Hashem showed him what the vision was, and it was as follows: the king was watching. This is the dream. There was a huge statue. It was immense, so on. The head was of gold, the chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of copper, legs of iron, and the feet partly iron and partly clay. There was a stone that was hewn without hands, and then it struck the statue on the feet, crumbled them, and then the entire statue crumbled and turned into dust. And the wind carried away, and there was no trace. And he said that the Hashem made you the king. You are the head of gold. So Bavel is the head of gold, and he says afterwards there will come other nations, and they are exactly what they are is differences of opinion. The Greece. Wait. Yeah. So then there's after Bavel was Persia, second. Then comes Greece, 3, and the fourth. Most feel that the fourth was Rome, coming until today, and there's some Meforshim who feel that the fourth was the Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
And could be it's both.
Well, that's what
But okay, yeah. Here he follows that it's both. And then it says why each one corresponds to that. So here, the head is gold. You are the head of gold.
So, in the verse quoted, Daniel is speaking in Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. The present exile is seen as an extension of the Roman exile. Edom is Rome. Since culturally and legally, Western civilization shares the values and the worldview of ancient Rome. A subset of this exile is that of Ishmael, the Arabs, who are seen as the antithesis of Roman civilization and values, and who will rule over the Jewish people for a time concurrent to the exile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we are right now.
That's where we are.
Western
world. Where we are.
So whose headquarters is Rome?
Tell you my be saying happened to be happened. Happened. So you have all these prophecies. I would like these prophecies happened.
Want to check it off?
Checklist?
He wants the checklist.
There's someone who did that.
I hope so.
He has an amazing presentation. Father was an Italian actor. He has a thing. I mean, learning it, there's a lot of stuff there that's vague. It's not clear. But this guy, he has a whole presentation, a whole show that he does, and he shows like 24 prophecies. Everything's happened. He said Hashem has a good track record. Everything His promises happen. He said the only thing that's waiting is Mashiach and the revival of the dead.
No government.
Maybe, probably did. But you know what? Some of these things are ambiguous that they can be interpreted a number of different ways. And you can say, yeah, it happened, or it can happen again. You say, no, it refers to this one.
Because Adam's child,
Which one that we're in?
We're in.
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah, but it's lasting
It's
2,000 years.
long.
It's long. Oh,
another one comes after.
No, no,
nope.
Concurrent.
Concurrent.
We're in
no.
The
Yes.
Arabs.
It's
Yeah, well,
concurrent now.
there are
No,
different,
the Ishmael.
there are different, the commentaries have differences of opinions.
Look, when the Islamic world controlled a lot of territory and Jews, the Ottoman, even before, well,
Byzantine was what?
Rome. It's
It's Rome.
Rome in extension.
It was
Greek.
like, I think, Western Rome.
Yeah, it's Western Rome. So it's
So the Ottoman Empire.
the Ottoman is Turkish. That's a Muslim piece. They
We
control.
were there. We were Syria.
Yeah, and so that was concurrent. That's concurrent at the same time. The Europe.
Where aren't we?
So
Where aren't we?
I mean, a lot of the
Everywhere.
Sephardi, right, come from being controlled by Ishmael.
I get yes, they have.
Yeah.
North Africa.
North Africa, part of Spain.
That's what we go
Okay.
there.
Iraq.
Iraq. The Sephardi
All right.
has to be concurrent.
My aunt had a Jewish people. It was like that many volumes. That's
Okay.
too many volumes.
All right. This is also.
This is also why our sages refer to the final stages of exile as the heels of Mashiach. For in that time it will become necessary to elevate the divine sparks that have become enmeshed in the lowest elements of these exiles' defeat.
Heels of Mashiach. We call the heels or the footsteps of Mashiach.
Final stage.
The final stages. Why? Because the lowest divine, we'll be working on the lowest divine sparks.
Regarding this body, our sages say, the Son of David shall not come until all the souls have been emptied out of the body, referring to the holiness that has been mixed in with the evil of the evil man mentioned above. So this is a rectification, I would think. The usual meaning of this saying is that all the souls waiting in their spiritual storehouse, known as the body, must be born into this physical world at least once in order for Mashiach to come. Here it means all the divine sparks must be elevated and thus emptied out of the body, representing the exiles of Israel. Okay? Now, as we said, Egypt outweighs all the other exiles, for it corresponds to the Yud and transcends the rest of his body. Therefore, when the Messiah comes and the process of elevation and refinement of the sparks will be completed, death will be swallowed up forever, and the sparks will be totally elevated as they were in Egypt. About this time it is written, as in the days when you went out of Egypt, I will show him wonders.
Alfred crowded.
Well, I don't know.
So what is that?
He thinks he's going to get crowded. I mean, it's like
The world got awfully crowded.
the world's crowded because it got all these.
That means so that everything boils down to Egypt in a way. Egypt is a catchphrase for all exiles.
Yeah. That way, as if we're coming out of Egypt in the Passover, the Seder,
Yeah.
constantly.
But that's why we just mentioned Egypt. We don't need to mention the others.
Right.
Because it's inclusive.
We look at it as if we're coming out of Egypt today or whatever. And then we look at it personally.
Now, in the all of Tanakh, we find a number of songs. For example, the song when we left the sea. There's a song when people before we went to Israel, the two mountains joined together, the two cliffs where the people were waiting in ambush. And so we had a song there, the Song of David, Song of Devorah. So altogether, there are 10 songs. There are 10 songs altogether. The one of them, where this is from, Yeshaya 25:8, I think it's 24 and 25, is the song When Mashiach Will Come. That's the final one. And over there, one of the lines is that death will be swallowed up forever. Okay? 960. You were wondering what happened to the captive.
Comes back.
Right now we're going to go back to the so I'm sorry. What we're going to say is that the same, just like we have this idea by exiles, the same thing is with the captive. There are sparks of holiness that got stuck in the among people, and they're going to be elevated by taking them, converting them, and bringing them into the Jewish fold.
No, this is really not proselytism at all. This is recognizing the spark that's there and elevating it and marrying it and joining it.
On the simple level, it is a forced version.
Forced.
I mean, she doesn't. It's a type. Yeah, it's a small say.
It's not. I don't see it as proselytizing.
It's not proselytizing.
You're not convincing somebody, so to speak.
You're insisting.
You're capturing.
You're capturing and insisting.
But I mean, see, the other thing is, if a person takes captives, the captives are taken during the war, just captives, then you take them and they become slaves.
Slaves.
And that's standard. It's not this case.
They're not slaves. They have a higher status.
This is the case where he took a wife. Or he took a war bride.
They become your slave. Possession. Different. This is a higher level.
But they go through the conversion.
Yes.
So it's the same idea. It's there. There's sparks there, and elevating the sparks. Okay. Go ahead. 960?
Yep. All this enables us to understand the subject of the beautiful woman. As is known, all those who engage in this type of war, an optional war, were absolutely righteous and had not even committed the sin of talking during prayer.
Well, you're talking during prayer over there in the Gemara. It's also understood to mean talking between putting on one tefillin and the other tefillin, between putting on the arm tefillin and the head tefillin, because the tefillin is tefillah. One of them is called tefillah, which is prayer, which can also be translated as prayer.
Torah commands the Jewish people to wipe out the 7 pagan nations that occupied Canaan in order to possess the land of Israel and fill it with holiness. In this obligatory war, we are commanded, "You shall let no soul live." The war we are discussing here, however, is not of this type, but the voluntary war we are allowed to wage in order to expand the borders of Israel. Before going out to fight this war, all those who were afraid to fight because they felt that their sins would disqualify them from Hashem's protection were allowed to leave the front. Thus, the ones who remained were only those totally confident in their sinless state.
So that's the type of soldier we're talking about here, first of all. So, yeah, I mean, he's not, in war, he's not a low-life soldier looking to commit, to pillage and, and so on.
The evil inclinations would persuade such a wretched person to defile himself with a non-Jewish woman. Therefore, the Torah informs us, if he does indeed feel attracted to her, it is because there is a holy spark and mesh in his nation, and something of it is found in this non-Jewish woman. This spark is connected to the soul of this man, and therefore is attracted to her. We're taught that the soul descends into this world not only for the general purpose of elevating the fallen sparks of holiness, but that there are, in fact, specific sparks that each soul is uniquely suited to elevate, or like a special mission. Therefore, the Torah permits her to him. With the power of the Spirit that he introduces into her through intercourse, it is possible that the good in her will be able to overpower the evil and expel it. Hence, the woman will then be fit to enter the realm of holiness and convert to Judaism. Sexual intercourse is meant, of course, to be a union not only of body but of soul as well. Through intercourse, the righteous man will impart something of his divine consciousness to this woman. Nonetheless, their offspring will still be rebellious, for it is impossible that some residual evil will not remain in her that will manifest itself in their child. The passage of the Torah describing the loss of the beautiful woman is followed by the loss what is to be done to an exceptionally rebellious son. According to the oral tradition, the juxtaposition of these passages is meant to convey that the offspring of the soldier and the beautiful woman will be rebellious. But she's beautiful in his eyes.
Yeah, that means that there's an attraction there.
That's the special mission. That's your special mission right there.
Interesting. She brings things that I always thought about. But if you do not desire her, this indicates that whatever good there was within her was the minority and became nullified, for the evil overcame it and expelled it. It joined together with the spirit he introduced into her, which then returned to him and was elevated. She was thus left totally evil.
He left her.
Oi, that's the opposite. In this case, the spirit introduced into her through intercourse was not able to expel the evil, since she herself did not possess enough good to combine forces with his good and overcome the evil. The indication that this indeed happened is if after the mourning period he is no longer attracted to her.
That goes to the point that there was a one time of sexual
Correct, yeah,
intercourse
yeah.
before he took her into the house, and cut, and the hair was cut, and it goes exactly to that point. That beforehand there was one experience of intercourse, and then he takes her to the house, shaves her hair, she mourns for her family. This is exactly
Correct. Okay.
Scripture says, when you go out to war against your enemies, the word enemies being in the plural, even though a country generally fights one enemy at a time. America. And continues, and Hashem your God delivers it to you. The word it being in the singular.
Referring to the enemies.
Correct.
Yeah.
The reason for this is that one spark of holiness.
One minute.
Yeah.
Question is that it says you go to fight your enemies,
Plural.
plural.
and
But
Hashem will deliver
Yeah.
it or him into your hand.
Kingdom.
Yes. The
All
reason
right.
for this is
the reason for this is that one spark of holiness, which is only one soul, becomes mixed amongst a number of bodies when it enters the world. Thus, the word your enemies is in the plural, for the spark is somewhere amidst all of them. And Hashem, your God, delivers it to you, refers to one spark that you will extricate from there.
okay, so there's one spark that's scattered.
Okay. Alternatively, according to the basic non-mystical meaning of the text, Scripture said that when you go out as one man with one heart, then Hashem will reward you in kind and will make your numerous enemies like one single one. That is why, and Hashem your God delivers it to you, is in the singular. When you go out is in the singular, referring to the Jewish army as a unit. This indicates that they are one mind and spirit, as opposed to a host of individuals with their own personal agendas. It's more like, Hashem responds in kind, changing the enemy hordes into a group as easy to conquer as a single man. Alternatively, this may be explained similar to how we understand the verse. On that day, Hashem will punish the host of heaven in heaven and the kings of the earth.
Isaiah.
Uh,
And I think
On
that's
earth.
I think that's part of the song that I mentioned.
And Hashem, your God, delivered it to you refers to delivering the heavenly prince of the enemy nation, just as the verse, and Israel saw Egypt dead on the seashore. That's the refers to the heavenly prince of Egypt. The host of heaven refers to the patron angels, princes, appointed over their respective nations. After the Egyptians were drowned in the sea, Scripture says, Israel saw Egypt in the singular rather than the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Although the simple meaning of this verse refers to the nation of Egypt, it implies that as well, the heavenly angelic patron of the nation that was robbed of its power over them. So
That Hashem
so
will
it's
give
singular.
him into your hands,
that angel,
meaning the angel,
Yeah.
that
or
particular
that
patron
Yeah.
angel.
patron angel.
Here too, Hashem promises to deliver the heavenly power source of the enemy nation to the Jewish people. Afterwards, you will take its captive, refers to the earthly soldiers under its influence.
So far we have three answers why it says singular that refers to the enemies in the singular form.
Okay.
Okay, we have a fourth.
All right. Alternatively, it is known that the real enemies of a person are the men of his house.
15.
Micah. Mystically, this refers to the drops of seminal emission that issued from him improperly, and from which the bodies of the forces of evil were made, as it is written, I have created destructive forces to cause damage. Isaiah. Although, as this verse states, Hashem creates the forces of evil to be material, he uses to construct their bodies is the vital seed that the person emits improperly.
Okay, so now we're going to speak about this idea about the wasted seed as the enemy of a person. Which one?
We saw a little bit with Adam.
Yes, we've had that before regarding Adam, where that was totally inadvertent. We learned that.
Improper, not okay.
Yes. Well, whatever. Maybe it is the same thing. We went through that. I don't want to get into that here and now.
All right.
Let's stick to this.
But there are two types of enemies. Seminal emissions, known as the plagues caused by mortal men, and the forces of evil themselves. Therefore, when you go out to war against your enemies, it is in the plural. And Hashem, your Hashem delivers it to you, refers to the forces of evil, the first type of enemy, and you will take it captive, refers to the drops of seminal emission, the holy soul, and that the first enemy captured the forces of evil. All right, I have to repeat that.
You gotta go slow.
But there are two types of enemies. Seminal emissions, known as the plagues caused by mortal men, and forces of evil themselves. Therefore, when you go out to war against your enemies, it's the plural. Because there are two types. And Hashem, your God, delivered it to you refers to the forces of evil, the first type of enemy. That means it's in the singular. It refers to the first
One
type.
moment. One's in the plural, one's in the singular.
Even though.
So which refers to which?
Seminal emission. Even though it's a plural, it's singular because it's the first type.
Refers. Hold on.
Both are in the plural. That's the
Because it
problem.
refers to both of them.
So when you collectively verse, you want to look at it that way.
No, Hebrew is different. Anyhow,
Anyway, I'm just.
and finally, and Hashem. No.
I'm lost.
What it's going to say is that you take its since it's called the plagues caused by mortal men.
Okay,
That's plural.
So the first one is plural.
The plagues caused by mortal men. I don't know the first is plural.
Okay, so the Hashem, your God, delivered it refers to the plain forces of evil, which is the second one, and that goes in singular for some reason.
But when it says you'll capture its captives,
You will take it captive.
You will capture its captives. So what do you mean its captives? Its captives mean that the forces of evil took it as captives,
And you
are
will
holding it
capture the
captured.
whole thing.
Now you're capturing it back.
Seminal emission.
The forces of evil have captured that. They've taken hold of it, and they're holding it captive. You're
That's
taking
the plural.
its captives.
That's the plural. The
But
seminal emission.
I don't get the plural thing, but yeah.
We'll go back to that. But
Emissions.
this is interesting because here it only says you will take it captive, which is you're saying.
Yeah.
So you will capture it captive. That refers to the say before that the forces of evil
Or the
are playing
drops.
against themselves. Remember?
No. I got it. We're missing something, I think.
No.
We're missing something, guys.
Hold on.
What's the question?
No,
There's
but
three
this
things here.
makes me,
There's
it
three
reinforces-
things.
Yes, I understand that.
You understand that?
Yes, hold on. What is that? That remember it says to its own detriment.
Yes.
I don't know where that is.
Where was that?
I don't find it.
Why?
Uh,
It was.
because capturing is captive would make sense. So let's say the forces of evil captures a good thing, and by you capturing forces of evil, you cover it.
No. There are three different things here.
First, yeah, okay. All right.
One moment, please.
So,
The word disposable.
okay, so there is the seminal emissions are plural because are the plagues.
No. Listen to me.
Yeah.
You guys aren't listening. There are three different things. One, seminal emission. Okay, that's bad. Two is the forces of evil that take hold of it. Three are the drops of the seminal emission.
Okay.
I think.
I don't see it here, but
That's what he says.
next to what?
Hmm?
Okay, let's continue. Another version of this idea.
Okay, page 963.
The second explanation. The verse speaks about the plagues caused by mortal men, which, as known, now you have it, are the drops of semen that you issue wastefully. These are captured by the forces of evil.
Mm-hmm.
In our exposition of the liturgy for reading the Shema before bedtime, we have explained the idea behind the phrase double-edged sword in their hand. When reciting the Shema before,
Everyone familiar with this?
yeah, he dudes, the bed of
60.
Solomon, blah blah blah. Somebody's bed.
60 mighty warriors.
Security guard.
Excuse me, what does that part that you read have to do with this dropping?
Because that is two things. First, it is in the Siddur, and
Yes, I know.
you know, okay, and that's what we say in the bedtime, the nighttime Shema before we go to bed. And that verse is from the Song of Songs.
Yes.
The Song of Songs looks like a really nice thing. They don't reference that here.
Doesn't say.
They no, and it's it's about the might, the power of King Solomon, the grandeur of King Solomon. But it's an allusion to the power of good with which we protect ourselves against evil. In this case, kind of specifically to the things that we're talking about here.
You're talking about killing, which is war, and capturing. And here, this is where it talks. So the Shema, the person is fighting evil with the double-edged sword. He kills the forces of evil, and he captures from them the souls that evil, held captive, which are the plagues of mortal death. So those are the two actions that go on in here and in the war. That's why there's the capturing of that of that person, of the beautiful woman, in a similar way.
Right, so I could reciting the Shema before bedtime, a person is in effect fighting evil with a double-edged sword. He both kills the forces of evil threatening him and captures from them the holy souls that they held captive and are known as the plagues of mortal men. It follows that the person has two types of enemies, the forces of evil themselves and those plagues of mortal men, as it is written. I will reprove them from their transgressions with the staff and with the plagues of mortal men.
He speaks about Hashem creating the material of evil, and then mortal men through the seminal emissions uh, 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 Hashem uses to construct the body of evil. So we what the problem with the emissions that we cause is this uh, multiplication of evil in the world by doing this, and it has to be rectified by capturing it back. And not only you warding off the evil that exists, but you got to capture that which we as humans have caused in yeah.
Okay, important to the book of Shmuel, second book of Shmuel, and um, and David said, "I've got a nice palace for myself now, and a gorgeous palace, and but the Aron is still with the tablets is still in a tent, still in the temporary housing." And he told this to Nasan the prophet, and Nasan said, "Go ahead, and you have Hashem's support. Go build a permanent, nice building." And that night, Hashem came to Nasan and said, "Go tell David he does not have my support. I do not want him to build a house yet." And he goes through the whole thing, and he speaks to him very um, lovingly. That we've been good partners. We've done well by each other, and it's just it's going to be after he dies that afterwards the following kings will build it, and it says he shall build a temple for my sake. I shall make him firm the throne of his kingdom. I shall make firm the throne of his kingdom forever. I shall be a father unto him. He shall be a son unto me. And when he sins, I will chastise him with the rod of men and with the afflictions of human beings. I will chastise Solomon as a father would a son, but not too severely, never abandoning my affection and never abrogating my promise, and to all descendants. When Solomon or his successors sin, they would be punished. There will be normal, non-extraordinary ways. So he with love and he will punish as a father with love and compassion. So anyway, that's what it says over there. So over here, it explains it to these what's it called? To these sins of the people in general terms. It is therefore, middle of 963.
It is therefore written, when you go out to war against the enemy, two types of enemies. When you battle them, Hashem will deliver each first enemy, evil itself, into your hand. Then you will capture a captive, second enemy. Call it so that the first enemy, evil itself, captured.
Okay, one moment.
Okay.
One moment. Up till the end of page 962, we were calling from two sources, two parallel sources. The Sefer Likutim, which means a book of collected essays, and Likutei Torah, collections of Torah. At the top of 963, we went to Tamei HaMitzvos, the reason for a different book, reason for the mitzvahs, and this is, we are right, I'm sorry, yeah, in this parsha. So this, what we're taking here now, is another book that's of the Arizal that speaks on the same issue.
It says another version of this idea just before it starts.
Correct.
Yeah,
In
issue,
small
the same issue.
Yeah.
Get it?
This is translator compiled, correct? So it's not Arizal saying, presenting
Right.
two sources.
It's this book that had two parallel passages, and now he's taking from a third.
Right.
Clarify it.
Well, it usually will explain it a little different. The others, the Hebrew is very close to each other.
Okay. I know, I keep saying that. You will retrieve from his hand the very captive he took from you originally, and return it to the realm of holiness, as it is written, and take her into your house. Oh, the beautiful woman.
Hold on a second. He's been summoned. This goes back to the beginning.
Yeah. Say it again, Nancy. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question.
Yes.
Here we have the rabbi.
Okay, I'm there.
The lawyer says yes.
Yes.
What?
Absolutely.
This man goes with the chicks.
Is
And
that
has
wasting
intercourse.
ammunition?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's the question?
If that's wasteful. To go with
The answer
chicks.
is, actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's not wasteful. But it's
done correctly.
let me say it. This is wasteful. The marrying someone or being with someone not Jewish is not wasteful, but it's giving over the holiness into klipa, into serious klipa.
But
not good. Let me put it that way.
So,
I know, but I have a mother of 19 years old guy. That's why, like, I'm getting into stuff with him. He lives in Arizal.
He what?
He believes in Arizal.
Okay.
He believes it. So now that it takes place, you know, I want to know wastefully. So if having relations like the non-Jews, so it's not considered wasteful.
Listen.
It's not captured by evil.
Right. Are you worried? Is he committed to marrying Jewish?
Yes.
Okay, good.
His age is right now, you know, the thing that, you know, I'm trying to inspire him and be successful.
Just don't, encourage him. Encourage him to do what's right. Okay?
but if you look at the Torah says for the Parsh, the soldier is having intercourse.
Non-Jew, go ahead.
Non-Jew, I'm sorry. But the way this is presented, if that's how the Parsh is, it's doing a mix, elevating,
Yes.
or trying to, because it didn't work, right?
Correct.
So trying to elevate that fact that he felt of attraction.
Yes.
It says that if it's an attraction, because the soul,
There's some holiness that's in there.
Sparks.
So King from the sparks of holiness in this nation that can be elevated through her. So King David himself married one of these war brides. And which was the what?
Was she?
No, not Bathsheba.
The
Which
war bride? Oh, she was a, he was in war. That's what that was.
it was.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
It was.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Philistine? No.
Philistines are different.
No,
Different.
no,
They're
no,
not the same.
no.
Palestinian and
Oh,
Philistines are
Palestine now is
very different.
68
Yeah. Come on.
not
Not Philistine.
territory. I had to
One
read
moment.
that. I had a Palestinian.
Not that propaganda.
I had to read the kilo.
Why?
I had a Palestinian girl, mostly.
Why?
Wow.
Very nice girl.
That's what I'm talking about.
And-
That's
and
what
she
she's
married-
talking about.
She finally married Osama.
So she was talking about this.
His first name is Osama.
First thing is Osama.
No, that Osama. Now I saw a picture from Facebook, and he looks very patient. Very nice
Hold
girl.
on. Okay. For example, after David had the incident with Bathsheba,
Okay.
and he was told that there would be a number of punishments. And one of those was that there would be trouble from his kids. So what ended up happening was his son raped.
Rebelled.
What?
One of them rebelled.
Yes, Absalom rebelled, but
One died.
the one that rebelled died. But before that, one of the sons raped one of the daughters. So, one moment. So when he was forcing himself on her, she said, "Please don't do it. It's gonna, ruin you. It's gonna ruin me." And she said, "Speak to our father. He'll allow us to marry." Why? How could he allow them to marry? Because
Brother, brother.
according to one thing, just a minute, that her mother was one of these war brides. Tamar's mother. Oh, here we are. I'm looking for it here exactly. There are different opinions.
Actually.
I guess that
They have different mothers.
Tamar's mother, according to the Talmud, was one of these war brides who was permitted to David for one time in the, let's say in the heat of battle or whatever it is in battle, and then afterwards she converts. Tamar, so she got pregnant from that, and then before she converted, she gave birth to Tamar. So therefore, Tamar was technically non-Jewish when she was born, and she had to convert. Her mother was like a war bride, but she apparently was a very upright, refined person. She herself. And if the king's going and having a war bride, he's not taking some whatever. What? Right. Okay, he's taking from these more refined, probably people. And so Tamar herself was a very Tamar herself is a very refined, what's the word? Refined, a good person.
Upright.
And then afterwards, it says afterwards she gave birth to Absalom. So then the other brother Amnon had a different mother, and he said he wanted to force himself on Tamar, and she said, "Speak to our father; he'll let us marry." And he didn't listen, and it was a big embarrassment. And then in the end, eventually, Avshalom avenges this and kills Amnon. Yeah, in cold blood, out of revenge.
I have a trial tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
What time is it? 10 to
10.
9. Hold on. Let's find.
Let's get to a place.
Let's get to a place where we can pull in to make send a text. What's it called? A text stop.
Retroactive.
Where are we now?
Afterwards.
Where are you?
Well,
On what page?
let's finish night. Oh, we're
Nope,
already?
we're not there.
Man.
Do bottom of 963.
Yes. The first enemy, the forces of evil in
Where are you?
general,
Where are you
the
now?
bottomless.
We gotta read the.
Go read the.
You will retrieve from his hand the very captive you took from you originally, and return it to the realm of holiness, as it is written, and take her into your house. I thought I read that. You want me to finish the?
Yes, finish the page.
The first enemy, the forces of evil in general, has captured the vital force in the seminal emissions. These drops were the vehicles through which Hashem intended to bring a holy soul into the world. Instead, this holy soul became captive to the forces of evil and animated the destructive forces created through it. When a person repents for this sin, he recaptures these holy souls from the forces of evil and turns them into forces of holiness.
Say it again.
So
The drops were the holy soul into the world. The holy soul became captive, and now a person repents for the sin. You say the Naitam Shema. We're talking about the 60 mighty people. You recapture the holy souls and turn them into forces of holiness. 18. This paragraph is a bit further in Sefer Likutim. Sefer Likutim was what we were reading before, on page 4, and we didn't get that far.
all right.
Okay, good.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Nancy. Have a great week. All good things.
All magic.
And let's check this.